Chapter 20. The European Union, United States of Europe and its Hidden Hand. In August 2016, HumanSarafree.com reported on the secrets behind the European Union. They reported that every major step in the development of the European Union, from a simple trading body to a superstate, could be traced back to a specific ideology which upholds rule by an elite from behind the scenes. The ideology is about politics, mysticism and magic. The movement was developed by Frenchman Joseph-Alexandre Saint-Yves in opposition to the rise of anarchy in the second half of the 19th century, and it was named Synarchy. His ideal was that the synarchist state would be a rigid social hierarchy topped by an elite that is predestined to rule. This was at odds with the emerging concepts of democracy. He called for the creation of a united Europe in his 1877 book entitled Keys to the East. He believed that this perfect society reflected deep cosmic laws and that the elite would be directly guided by powers that rule the universe. He claimed that in previous times an advanced civilization had governed the world, lasting from 7500 to 4000 BCE. He adopted a popular idea that spiritually advanced masters existed in Agartha, a hidden realm in the Himalayas. After his death in 1909, and the aftermath of the First World War, his followers, including members of the French Parliament, realized that they couldn't achieve their ambitions through conventional means, so they turned to secrecy. They put their people into key positions in political and economic institutions, intending to create a world government by an initiated elite, according to Richard F. Kissel, who specializes in 20th century French political history. Synarchy equated to rule by secret society. One of Saint-Yves' devotees was Gerard Encausse, who was a leading figure among French esoteric societies. He blended teachings of his spiritual master Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin and his intellectual master Saint-Yves. Encausse founded the Martinist order, and it had political ambitions, including the formation of a United States of Europe. His death in 1916 resulted in activists forming a breakaway Martinist and Synarchic order designed to attract young civil servants and young members of great business families. In 1930 it became the Mouvement Synarchique de l'Empire, MSE. The MSE produced an important top-secret document entitled the Synarchist Revolutionary Pact for the French Empire, known as the Synarchist Pact. This document set out a program for invisible revolution, which means taking over a state from within by infiltrating into high office. The first step was to take control of France before creating the European Union. Interestingly, Victor Hugo was credited with first using the term United States of Europe, and Victor and Saint-Yves were close friends in the Channel Islands in the 1860s. It became a political force when the Pan-European movement was established in 1923 by Richard Coudenhove-Coligny, an Austrian count. Otto von Habsburg described him as the guide and prophet of a united Europe. The Count won over Winston Churchill, who began talking about European unity from 1930, and the Count believed that cosmic forces shaped events. At a Theosophical Society lecture in 1935, Maurice Girodias, as a 16-year-old, was told that they were schismatic theosophists with political designs, and they are linked to Count Coudenhove-Coligny, who is a champion of the United States of Europe. Their aim is to launch a pan-European political party and to institute in the entire world, commencing with Europe, a society obedient to a spiritualist idea. After the First World War in France, the creation of some far-right groups was initiated, and one of these groups was dubbed the Cagoule by the press. The Chicago Tribune summed up the Cagoule as deliberately terrorist, resorting to murder and dynamiting, and its aim was to overthrow the Republic and set up an authoritarian regime on the model of the fascist state of Mussolini. Italy supplied the Cagoule with money and weapons, and the Cagoule assassinated anti-fascist Italian refugees in Paris. The Cagoule was led by Eugene Deloncle. They were also funded by wealthy industrialists such as the founder of L'Oréal, Eugene Schuller. A connection between the MSE and Deloncle was acknowledged by Richard Kissel, who stated that, strangely enough, although the Cagoule was an archenemy of Freemasonry, it imitated Masonic ritual, symbolism and methods of recruitment. Deloncle even personally likened its recruiting methods to the chain method of the Illuminati. A connection between Deloncle and France's longest-serving president, François Mitterrand, was rumored, which turned out to be true because Mitterrand's brother Robert married Deloncle's sister-in-law. When Mitterrand achieved power, he governed through his clan of friends and relatives, commenting that he needed only 50 well-placed friends to run the country. He is also reported to have had esoteric views, as he employed astrologers, believed in reincarnation, and was interested in UFOs. In June 1940, France fell to Nazi Germany. In May 1950, the French Foreign Minister, Robert Schuman, announced that France and West Germany had agreed to coordinate their coal and steel industries. The European project had really begun. He offered the chances to join to Italy, Belgium, Holland and Luxembourg, which they accepted, and 7 years later the Treaty of Rome established the European Economic Community, EEC. Although Schuman was the front man, the power was from Jean Monnet, a businessman and economist. Monnet secured the Allies' backing for General de Gaulle against the opposition of Roosevelt, and in return, de Gaulle gave Monnet the responsibility for rebuilding the French economy and industry. The Schuman Declaration was set up, but it was the result of trickery, subterfuge and intrigue by Monnet. By being able to get the French and West German governments to set up an organization to coordinate their industries without realizing what they had signed up for. They had signed up to an organization that had control over individual nations' industries but with an outside autonomy. Monnet became president of the High Authority, and Schuman became the first president of the European Parliament in 1958. Monnet was a pre-war protege of the Synergist Empire movement and was described as an influential promoter of the Synergist agenda and as a true synarch, whose membership of the movement was never in doubt for the true initiates. The Single European Act of 1986, established free trade and movement between EEC states, was the culmination of a process set in motion by the Schuman Declaration. Over the years, the EEC has included both the UK and Ireland. Mitterrand proposed not just closer economic union but also political union. In 1992, the Maastricht Treaty turned the EEC into the EU and gave the European Parliament powers over member nations where before it only had an advisory role. It agreed on a single currency, established the Eurozone and created the European Central Bank, a true superstate of Europe.